Mashpee, Mass. We broadcast live on local cable channel 8 and 1072. We stream live on the Town of Mashpee website, www.mashpeema.gov/channel8. And, okay, 6:30, we convene an open session. Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And I'd like to have a moment of silence for all of those who are in the storm's way. Thank you. Okay. Discussion approval of the following Monday, September 9th, 2024, regular session, and September 23rd, 2024, regular and executive session.
So
minutes.
moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Michaela? David?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
And myself is yes. Appointments and hearings. DPW Director, Catherine Laurent. Discussion and approval of award of a contract for road sand.
Good evening.
Hi, Catherine.
So as we do each year, we participated in a collective bid with the counties of Barnstable and Plymouth, and I am recommending that we award our contract for purchase of sand for this year to G. Lopes Construction, who were the lowest qualified bidder.
They're the lowest, and it's increased 45%.
Yes. So even though this is under snow and ice, it actually is the sand that we use for our beach nourishment.
Any questions for Catherine?
I do.
Okay.
And it's just a clarification question. We negotiated with Barnstable and Plymouth. Are the difference in prices reflected here due to the travel to Mashpee?
So if you look at, I guess, the other towns, we do, if you compare us to the town of Sandwich, which is right off of Route 6, we do pay a little bit more than the, I guess, other towns
But
on
we're
the Cape.
also double, we buy double than what they have.
Correct.
I was looking at, and maybe I misheard, did you say we negotiated with Barnstable and Plymouth?
We participated in a bid process. So
all
these
right.
were actual sealed bids that contractors submitted.
Okay. So there would be no reason to anticipate the figures would be the same or similar.
So they do look at it, it's per town, so they do take into consideration the travel, the transportation costs.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? I need a motion.
Motion to accept and approve award of contract for sand, salt, agricultural byproduct as recommended.
Second.
Michaela?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
And myself is a yes. Next up is an award contract for salt.
So David just made the motion for everything, which is fine.
It was all
Amend that motion to just the sand portion? Sorry, getting ahead of myself.
second on the
All in
amendment.
favor? To amend, yes.
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 Go ahead.
Now, take another vote to accept the amended version.
Okay. I need a motion for the G. Lopes Construction, Inc., who submitted the lowest qualified bid.
Motion to award the contract to G. Lopes Construction, who submitted the lowest qualified bid.
Second?
Second.
Michaela?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Okay, Catherine.
So the next is a contract for our road salt. So there are two different products that we purchase over the winter. One is just straight road salt, and we're recommending a contract be awarded to Eastern Minerals. And the second is to Morton Salt, and this is for the pre-treated salt. So it's a smaller quantity. It's only if we're in the middle of a storm or anticipating a storm and we don't have the time to treat the products ourselves.
And that's not the Morton salt on your grocery shelf.
Okay,
Hope
do I
not.
have a motion to approve for the salt?
Motion to approve a contract to be awarded to Morton Salt for pretreated salt.
Second.
Michaela?
Yes.
No, you have to do both salts.
Oh, I'm
Eastern-
sorry.
Eastern Mineral and,
And the two.
Okay.
thank you, I'm sorry to interrupt.
That's okay.
Okay. Motion that a contract be awarded to Eastern Minerals
And to Morton.
and to Morton Salt.
Second.
Michaela?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
And I'm a yes.
And the last item is the agricultural byproduct. This is what we mix with our salt, which helps with lowering the effective temperature of the salt when we apply it. This would be awarded to GB Sons Construction Company.
That's the last
GP
person.
Sons, okay. I need a,
Motion to award a contract to GB Sons Construction Company.
Second.
Michaela?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Thank you, Catherine.
Thank you.
Discussion of sewer expansion project, Phase 2, taking of private roads. Catherine?
So I am here with our wastewater superintendent, Jared.
Jared, come on up, Jared.
And thought this was worthy of discussion with the board for a policy, but also right now specific to Phase 2. As explained in the memo, Phase 2 does include a number of private neighborhoods. So while the sewer will obviously impact the issues with on-site septic systems, the private roads will not be, we will not be making any improvements to stormwater, which, as you all know, is contributing to our poor water quality, particularly in
Right.
our ponds.
I think it's a good
and
idea.
lakes. So, in talking with the town manager, we thought it was prudent to bring it to your attention now before we are going out to bid, so that we can have that conversation. So this, I think, was anticipated just to be introducing the subject
Okay.
for inclusion on a later agenda. So
Okay.
this would have some financial impact on those properties within the private neighborhoods, just because, as you know, typically with a road conversion, becoming a town road, we do better the properties and therefore assess.
Would they do a betterment? Would they have to do a betterment? Pay a
So we
betterment?
would look to, or we would propose a betterment for, specifically for the stormwater improvements, but also to, I guess, share in some of the cost of repairing the roads. These neighborhoods aren't going to be a mill and pave, which has been the treatment that most of the roads have had under Phase 1. Because of the work that would be required, both for the stormwater and the wastewater, it would have to be a complete reconstruction, which is at a higher cost.
Right.
So the thought was that it perhaps would be the difference between the two. So the residents, property owners would get some benefit, as we just did with Christopher Lane, of doing the work as part of the wastewater project. But there would still be a betterment cost.
So we'd have to let the homeowners know this and have,
So as with any road conversion,
Right.
it would require a town
town
meeting.
meeting, right?
But you, as the select board, can initiate that process, the road conversion process, rather than waiting for a petition from the property owners.
For the property owners, okay. But, so we'd have to have a hearing or a meeting with the homeowners. Okay. we'll have to. Sure.
So Catherine, some of the costs would be incurred by the town because we have to put pipes in the ground anyways. So there is a benefit to the homeowners because if they applied normally, under normal conditions, the cost would be much higher.
Yes.
Correct.
Is that correct? I just want to make sure, clarify for the homeowners on the streets.
Right.
You're now going to become town roads at a less cost than otherwise, the normal process.
Correct.
Okay. That makes sense.
Anybody else have questions?
I do. Do we have any understanding about approximate costs that we would be asking residents for in terms of a betterment?
This is really the first conversation.
Okay.
So depending on the feeling of the board, we would start to look at that and provide that information.
We're just trying to get the appetite of the board as far as
Well,
what-
I think since we're doing the road, we're
Thinking.
putting in, I think it's something to look at and feel what the cost will be, yes.
Will we also be looking at, and I don't want to move away from this, but would we be looking at public roads and wastewater runoff on the public roads and doing any improvements there?
So we currently are doing that for the town roads. A lot of the town roads, we've already made those improvements. One of the neighborhoods in Phase 2 is the neighborhood off of Santuit Pond that I mentioned that the select board had years ago initiated the process. So we did make stormwater improvements at that time. But yes, we do coordinate all road work improvements. We may be doing some sidewalk on some roads that are in Phase 2. We'll look at stormwater, again, just because of that cost savings by doing it together.
And would it be possible to find grant funds for this, especially in light of climate change and its impact on the storms that we've been having?
So we always are looking for grant funding, and I think you have a presentation later where the town did partner with APCC and the Wampanoag tribe to secure some grant funding. So it is something that we do look at and apply for. We've been successful in getting MVP funds for some stormwater projects around the Santuit Pond area. So we'll continue to look at those opportunities.
Thank you.
So what's the feeling of the board? Do we feel that this is something to pursue and go forward with?
I had a question to, I guess a couple questions to piggyback Michaela's questions. Where this is kind of infrastructure related, I typically the way the process works, as I understand it, is that, the applicant that's petitioning to have the roads converted over bears the cost of the betterments and everything to bring it up to current roadway standards. We're going to be eating all of that if we're initiating the process where it's not petitioned, as it was stated. So as part of that, I am wondering what funding's out there that you could kind of go after to do some of those initial assessments and things and kind of really frame it towards it's to the betterment of the water quality and stormwater and nitrogen mitigation and all that stuff, both at the federal and state level with all the different infrastructure funding that's out there, and as Michaela said, climate resiliency and things, because I'm a little afraid of the cost that's going to be associated with it if we have to do all the roadway layout infrastructure, not to the point where I wouldn't support it, but just
We're
to
not
be fully
paying
aware.
for it,
We're not incurring all the costs, though.
no,
It's,
It's the
they're still going to be assigned a betterment, but it's going to be at a lesser
amount.
amount.
Right,
Because
but
we
the
have to dig up the road
But
anyways.
the preliminary work to assess it, like, I'd be interested in understanding how far from current road specs are the layouts. You know what I mean? Curb cuts and drainage and, all the things that are considered in the roadway taking. where are we at with current conditions opposed to proposed as-built and recommendations?
Right. So, so a lot of that work we try to do in-house. So we will start initially with that. We have had some conversations already with our wastewater team, GHD and Jared and others. So we will look at trying to develop the estimates in-house. The plans, just because of the survey that's already been required for the wastewater, has been completed, so there shouldn't be necessarily additional costs associated with at least the existing condition plans. So I guess that's answers part of the question. We will look at funding, but I guess the challenge is with phase 2, the schedule is to try to issue the construction bids sometime in spring of 2025. So grants may not necessarily line up for us to be able to be in a position, I guess, to move this forward for Maytown meeting. But certainly, you know, moving forward for construction as well as for future phases, we will explore, you know, any grant opportunities that will help.
All right, thank you.
So you're looking for a motion to go forward from us?
Do you need a motion or just a,
I think just a general consensus that,
I'm in support of,
I'm in support.
we have to,
I
we
mean,
have to take the
we're
roads.
there, we're,
And I'm in support of exploring this and having you come back to us with what you
Exactly.
find.
right.
Correct.
exactly,
Yeah, that's a good way of framing.
okay.
So I'll obviously speak with the town manager and we'll come up with a plan, whether it's an interim meeting between now and when we'll have estimates, just to have that outreach with the affected neighborhoods. You're really the first conversation that we've held.
Okay.
It might be good to contact the state and see if they are aware of any funding that this might be eligible for, just for forecasting purposes.
Yes.
Okay,
Okay. Thank you.
thank you.
Now you're up.
Okay, Jared, wastewater superintendent. Discussion and approval of specifying DRI mitigation funds held by the Cape Cod Commission up to $187,125. Previously approved $183,000 to be utilized for the following projects. And I'll let you tell us the projects.
Good evening. So the, everybody hear me? Just make sure everybody
Yes?
hears me. So the 3 projects, we have the Mashpee Wakeby watershed wastewater system. This is a feasibility study. The $75,000 is just to make sure this is a project that we can go forward with or are even interested to go forward with. There's obvious some hurdles as far as like the land rights and what we can do with the land. Is it Article 97? Is it not? There's some things that we might have to get some lawyers involved. There's other groundwater modeling that we would need to do. And we're also just waiting for other information. There's current other studies going on dealing with phosphorus that we would take that information as well. It's valuable. So the first one, like I said, $75,000 is just a feasibility study. Existing wastewater facilities is the second one. We have 2 facilities within the town. We have Willow Bend and Southport. Both have expressed interest that they would like for us to take them over. Both of them, as it seems right now, has recharge capability available to us, which is always something we're looking for. But the key is we want to make sure that when we go in there, if we decide to take it over, that we're taking over a good working piece of equipment. So that's what that $45,000 is for, is to be able to go in there and really look at the nuts and bolts. And the last one is for the Quape watershed. This is just our recharge studying and groundwater modeling to try to find areas for phase 3. And that would be the 3 articles, or 3.
Any questions for Jared at the moment?
The,
I do.
Go
Okay,
ahead.
thank you. Jared, I know I've had the advantage of listening to you explain this in many IMA meetings and answering questions, but I have received some questions from residents, and I just want to make sure that we address those. So when you talk about feasibility, and correct me if I'm wrong, this $75,000 really is necessary to strengthen the data collection for our SRF application.
Yes.
And if we don't put that in and submit an SRF, then we lose that opportunity for another year. So this actually just shows us the nitrogen mitigation and the kind of plans we'll be doing. It's absolutely non-binding.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, I thought that's what you had said, but I just wanted to clarify that. And also, did you say that there aren't Article 97 lands we'd use, or that we would look at the
So
process?
there's legal questions that need to be determined. The state right now lists it, now it's only the GIS page. I've done deed searches. It's not listed as in perpetuity. It was brought to my attention that during the subdivision, it was listed as open space, which would make it Article 97. But then also in the guidelines that they just put out in August of 2024, the Commonwealth says that lands and easements taken or acquired for Article 97 purposes shall not be used. The land wasn't taken for Article 97 purposes. It was taken for other reasons. And so the question is, does that then carry over? And right now, the state webpage doesn't show it that it carries over, but that's something we need to ask a lawyer about to confirm.
Sure. And if you, in the event that you found out that it were Article 97, and we needed that for the whole project, and the project made sense otherwise, there's a process that we can work through.
There's a 4-step process. There's actually several processes depending, do we want to use the whole land, partial of the land? But there are several processes laid out. Some are easier than others.
Okay. The other thing I'm being asked, if I
Yeah,
can.
go ahead.
Is with regard to the completion of the pond study. And I know we're still waiting for that, and with Dr. Howe's untimely passing, that's been delayed. But we've seen the preliminary results. Did GHD feel as though the preliminary results were enough for you to be able to work forward?
I know they're really looking forward to getting the final results. It'll definitely be incorporated. So part of this whole process, and that's why they're kind of chomping at the bit right now to get it now so we can meet these deadlines.
Perfect. Thanks for explaining. I appreciate it.
Yep, thank you.
David?
No,
Okay. So I need a motion to take the steps to secure the $737 from the Cape Cod Commission. So I need a motion,
Motion to
utilize the fund.
utilize the $187,125 for the projects mentioned.
second?
All in favor? The figure is $187,737.
187,125?
Oh,
187, 125.
Yep.
I have it different.
Are we looking at two different things? Sorry.
Oh, yeah, I got it on the bottom.
Well, it says up to
Up to.
187,125,
Okay.
previously approved at 183.
Correct.
Motion to approve as presented.
Good girl. Do I have a second?
Second,
Second,
Michaela?
Yes.
David?
yes.
yes.
John? And I'm a yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Presentation on Joint Base Cape Cod. Good evening.
Good evening, Madam Chair. Mr. Board, town leaders, thanks for having me here. Citizens of Mashpee. My real reason to be here tonight is basically to introduce the great group of commanders I have working on Joint Base Cape Cod. But before I do, I want to say thank you for your support and camaraderie. This will be my last round of select board meetings. I'm retiring in July of next year, and I have nothing but great things to say about working with the towns. So I appreciate it. I know I wasn't supposed to be here tonight. I had a little change in plans. Oh, I'm sorry, is it not? So, Thank you. I'm just going to, so in doing so, that's me, I'm Christopher Foe, retired Brigadier General, Executive Director, Joint Base Cape Cod. Army National Guard Commander's John Bagalio. He is not available tonight, but I assure you he is very well represented by Major Alex McDonough. Air National Guard Commander Wendy Armijo. She is actually in Colorado right now, but her deputy, Colonel Tim Gordon, will take the reins. Space Force 6th Space Warning Squadron, excuse me, Lieutenant Colonel Brian Becker's with us, and the Coast Guard Base Cape Cod Captain Spivak and Air Station Cape Cod Captain Lakowitz are also here, ready to give you their presentation. So again, I just want to say thank you for working with me for the last 5.5 years, and I wish you all the best of luck.
Been a
And
pleasure.
you also.
Pending
you.
any questions, of course, from the board.
Not as of yet.
Okay, well, the first person I'm going to introduce, the order we're going is, I believe, the Air National Guard's up first, and Colonel Tim Gordon.
Good evening, board members, Madam Chair. Colonel Tim Gordon, Deputy Commander for the 102nd Intel Wing, and I just have a few comments and a couple of slides to share with you tonight. This slide here actually just highlights our organization, our 5 groups. We've got our 2 intelligence groups, we've got our engineering group, our medical group, and our mission support group that keeps us, keeps the lights on and keeps us operating. I am pleased to report that our intelligence missions are fully operational. And just this slide also highlights the size of the organization, right? We've got about 1,200 airmen, 30 of which are from the town of Mashpee, and about 400 that are full-time, whether it be full-time military or full-time civilian folks. So moving on to the next slide. Here, just a few pictures here to illustrate our folks at work and the type of work that they do, whether it be our intel analysts at the top left working behind a desk looking at a bunch of screens, or our logistics folks loading a cargo plane on the bottom right. We are busy serving the needs of the Air Force. And in addition to that, we have our domestic operation mission as well. And you see that in the center top, our medical group doing some training, some life support training, first responder training, and bottom left, our security forces airmen conducting riot control training as well. My favorite photo is the bottom center, where we see our honor guard posting the colors at our annual Family Day event, where we give thanks to our family. There is a saying in the Guard that families are the heart of the Guard, and this is true. We have remarkable airmen who are extremely dedicated and talented, but they couldn't do it without the support of their families and their communities. So we take every opportunity we can to thank them for that. And just finally, that C-17 cargo airplane on the bottom right, they call it the Globemaster. That's the same aircraft that was seen doing some low altitude training over the Upper Cape and Plymouth about a month or so ago. I know you may have seen it, or you may have seen it on Facebook, but that's the same aircraft. It's from the New York Air National Guard. So pending your questions, that completes my brief.
Madam Chair? Colonel Gordon, thank you first for your service, and thank you for this comprehensive presentation. I think it's really good when local government and our residents understand the important work that goes on the Joint Base. I really appreciate the thorough briefing, and I fully support our military and the critical need for military preparedness. I also support the health of our Cape Cod residents and our sole source aquifer, our drinking supply. And it concerns me that that remains healthy. So my question, if you could answer it for me, is now that Governor Healy has blocked the multipurpose machine gun range, are there any plans to move forward with other appropriations or funding for this project?
So that's really a question, perhaps, I don't want to pass it to the Army National Guard, but the Air National Guard is in we occupy the 200, 300 acres, I guess it's southwest part of the base. So I wonder if we can save that question for the Army National Guard, because that was really their initiative.
Okay, so I should ask that of Major Alex McDonough. Okay, I appreciate that.
Okay.
And again, thank you for your service, and thank you for being here.
Okay, thank you.
Good morning. I'm Lieutenant Colonel Brian Becker, United States Space Force, representing the 6th Space Warning Squadron. As most of you know, it's also known as PAVPAWS. We're just just south of Market Basket is our entry road, and our mission there with 135 military, civilian, and contractor members, mixed team, is missile warning, missile defense is our primary 2 missions, with our 3rd mission being space domain awareness. Annually, we track about 30 missiles. Those aren't the ones that are coming from any area of harm. It's more a domestic support that we see from Florida. And then our SDA mission, which is the mission that we probably do 98% of the time, which is tracking satellites in low Earth orbit. And we have about 10 million collects a year on those satellites. And that's basically just ensuring that no matter if it's commercial, military, blue or red, that they are where they're supposed to be, and just so keeping aware of what's going on in the space domain. We also have partners from Canada, and shortly we will have a partner from the UK. Currently we have 2 members from Exchange from Canada, and we will have 1 from the UK. We are part of the Space Base Delta 4, so my boss resides in Colorado, in Denver, so we are what we consider a GSU unit. And we'll see the next slide, but I rely heavily on all the folks that are behind me, if it's National Guard or the Coast Guard, to help support, since we do not have a large installation. So we are a critical mission. We're 24/7, 365. There will be 2 members on the space operations crew and about 5 security forces members, very young members, highly armed if you end up taking that wrong turn up that you'll be met with. That all reside under my command. So what we do here, and I want to thank you for all the support of the community. I live just a mile up the road, so I've been here since June, and it's been an amazing welcome to the community for both my family and everyone in our unit. But I operate about a $4.1 million budget, which we are an aging facility that is very critical. There's 5 of them across the world that do our missile warning, missile defense from the ground base across for North America. There's constant construction that's happening, constant installation support that's happening. So we are looking at, local vendors are on there every day, if it's from landscaping to HVAC to power or to water. And many of the people that are sitting behind me, like I said before, we're reliant on housing. But I think our MOU agreement is only about 15 houses on base for JBCC, and most of my people live off base. So we are integrated into the community, well part of your community, and constantly coming in and out from schools and clubs and businesses. So thank you for your support. One of the things I want to point out today is the Army also owns a couple of the turbines, but 2 of the turbines are part of our contract. We sustain them. We do not get any energy from them. It actually is put back into the power grid, and we receive a credit for that due to the amount of energy that the radar consumes. And we're going through constant, I know it says 125, so most people now in our line of work call it upgraded early missile warning, not PAVPAWS. It's from the new system, and basically that just gives us the missile defense mission. And pending any questions, that's all I have tonight. And thank you for your time, and appreciate your guys' support and my unit support throughout the community. So appreciate it.
Any questions? You're all set?
And I'll
Thank
pass it
you.
over to the Coast Guard. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everybody.
Good
Can you hear me?
evening.
Is it good? All right, just making sure. So, obviously, 2 of us from the Coast Guard tonight, myself and Captain Bowen Spiewak, run all Coast Guard operations on Cape Cod and therefore the Northeast. So, I just have 2 slides for you to go over, and I'll just highlight a few things off here, and certainly welcome to any questions, or we can go a little deeper. Essentially, Air Station Cape Cod, Coast Guard Air Station Cape Cod. This is my 2nd tour here. I just got here 3 months ago. I was stationed here when we used to fly our Falcon jets up here, and that was the last of the Falcons. I left when they left, and now I'm back. So it's great to be back. This is my home. I'll retire here, and like a lot of the conversation already, our crews, our families are part of the community. Our kids go to your schools, play in the sports and recs program, so thank you for all you do for us
and we enjoy being a part of your community as well. Essentially, we have about roughly 200. You see there 190 active duty and civilian personnel. We call the moniker for Coast Guard Air Station Cape Cod is the Guardians of the Northeast. You'll see on that far column there, we essentially operate from the northern side of New Jersey, which includes New York City, all the way to the Canadian border. So we have 3 aircraft and 3 helicopters that are basically covering that 1,300 miles offshore and 2,000 miles of coastline. So that being said, just like our Space Force brethren, we have air crews on duty 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days of the year, helicopter and aircraft ready to respond to the maritime community, folks in distress, and protecting our natural resources offshore. As I mentioned, most of the time the Coast Guard is known for its search and rescue. That's kind of what we're known for the last 200 and change years. We do a lot of search and rescue, more so than most units in the Coast Guard overall in the country. And a lot of them are pretty unique and hard cases. Today we were on 3 of them off Long Island, performing medevacs and getting folks to hospitals or in urgent need of care. Like I said, we provide a lot of medevac capability to the islands, so Martha's Vineyard, Nantucket, Block Island, and various other places that, especially in days like today when the weather's really bad, our air crews can actually go down to minimums well below FAA regulations to try and get in and save folks that are in need of that. You can see some of our statistics. We're usually about 200, 250 medical and search and rescue cases per year. You can see the property saved, all those kinds of things up there. One of the other things we do that is not probably well known in our community is we spend a lot of time, especially on the fixed wing fleet, offshore. So all the closed areas for fisheries offshore. You can see the $14 billion New England fishery is well protected by the U.S. Coast Guard from the surface and air. So we are the air portion of that. We watch over it every day. We're flying out there, essentially making sure people are fishing where they're supposed to and not where they're supposed to, including foreign entities that are coming closer to our waters every day. So we're out there every day. The other thing I would mention is your crews from Cape Cod actually deploy south. We were at the United Nations General Assembly. We had 2 air crews and a helicopter down in New York City during that for, again, any response that was needed. We also deployed down to the Caribbean and South America to enforce laws and treaties and counter drug operations in our fixed wing for the most part. Sometimes the helicopters get down there, not as much. But kind of gives you a breadth and scope of what we do here and across the country and across the spectrum of our maritime domain. And I think I'll leave it at that. Actually, I should mention one more time, the Coast Guard Auxiliary on the bottom, that is the largest auxiliary all-volunteer force of 40 aircraft and 200 people that are also augmenting what we do from the active duty side. So private aircraft patrolling the maritime domain, helping us out, find people when they're in need of finding, et cetera, et cetera. So that's an all-voluntary force that is also run out of our unit up and down, again, from Canada all the way down to New York City every day. So I'll pause for questions or comments.
Any questions?
Yes, Captain. Thank you for your service and all that you do. One question is on the marine environmental protections and also securing. It's a question of mine is with all the offshore wind infrastructure that's being built,
Yep.
like that seems like it would be a soft target for terrorism and things of that nature. So how, if you could speak to just how the Air Force, Coast Guard is actually integrated into both protecting that infrastructure once it's operational, as it's going to be producing a significant amount of our region's electricity, and also with the marine environmental protection and effects of the offshore industry on that.
Yeah. No, good question. And the easy answer for me is not really my swim lane, so we can take that back and get you an answer. Our partnerships with our what we call our sectors, more of our surface fleet that's in Woods Hole, they're very much actively engaged in that planning with government agencies as well as the private industry on how that's being produced or constructed, what we're doing out there, et cetera. So we can certainly take that answer, or I can take that question, get back to you on that from the folks that are actually working that. We are definitely on it. We're definitely working it. I will tell you from my side of the coin is at our air station, we are working a lot on if someone is in distress. For example, we've actually done medevacs already for employees that are out at the wind farms. We have actually had to respond for folks that were in some sort of distress out there and have already taken people back here to hospitals. Furthermore, let's just say other boating public is out there in general, fishing or doing whatever they're doing. We're working on how do we respond, how do we search in weather like this, knowing there's a 1,000-foot tower, right? So we're working that end from a search and rescue and response side. And so we're working that out with our flight crews to make sure they're safe and effective for the American public there. But from the environmental protection and terrorism threats, we can definitely get you a response with the folks that are working that on the surface side.
Thank you. Michaela, any questions?
I don't. Thank you very much.
Good.
Thank
Your
you.
service.
Great, thank you for having us. And I'm going to turn it to their real talented captain of the Coast Guard now.
Good evening, Madam Chair. Can you hear me?
Yeah?
Okay. Thanks to Captain Lackowitz, and also I just want to take an opportunity to thank you, General Foe. Congrats on your retirement. Thanks for the service of not only my brothers here, but for all of you who have family, friends, your own service, local service, state service, federal service, communities. There's so much service that we all do, so thank you for that. Bowen Spivak, I actually was born and raised in Cambridge, Mass., not too far from here, so it's kind of cool that the Coast Guard sent me back to Massachusetts. I got here about 1 year and 3 months ago, and to ensure that Captain Lackowitz and his aviators can do all the amazing life-saving and all the other missions, we support that. And so it's pretty basic, but this is just, I have a couple slides, and this one is just to show you that we have many more Coast Guard local stations and units here. For all of you who've been down to Woods Hole, right, you've seen the Coast Guard boats, Coast Guard ships down there, and we have a maritime safety and security team on base, port security unit, which is a reserve unit, a fisheries training center, so those folks teach our coasties how to measure for the fish, right? Captain Lackowitz was talking about fisheries and wanting to make sure that we keep those fisheries safe. So the bottom line is we have a lot of great Coast Guard units locally, and what we do, I'll say in the next slide, we support them. So see if I can do this. All right, so this is the glamorous part of the presentation. So what do you need to support people, right? We've got a clinic on base, which I know some of you know already, morale, wellness, and recreation. So we've got a bowling alley, we've got a pool for families in the summer, we've got a snack bar, and housing. So in addition to the folks that we've talked about, we have many military members that live in all the communities, including yours. We do have a small footprint of on-base housing and administrative support and a servicing personnel office. Why is that important? Because if folks don't have military IDs, they don't have their pay right, they don't have their orders squared away, they can't focus, right? They can't focus on the mission, which we need them to focus on. And of course, facilities engineering, I want to make sure that Captain Lackowitz has a safe hangar and that all his folks can do what they need to do safely. So we've got facilities engineering folks that help with all that, and IT and ET stuff, which stands for computer support and electronic support on boats as well. And so that's pretty much it. We're at the mission support for all the cool things that Captain Lackowitz gets to do. And also, we do have great support. Thank you to the Air Force. We have one of their physician's assistant works in the clinic, so it's nice to have that support, so thank you. And we've got a small footprint of some other military services in our housing. But other than that, that's what we do, pending your questions.
Any questions? No? I think we're all set. Thank you for your service. Here you go, Michaela.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, good evening, Madam Chair, members of this board. Major McDonough, I'm the full-time Deputy Base Operations Manager. During my full-time, I'm a Title V employee, so I wear civilians, but today I'm here representing Colonel John Bagalio, the Installation Commander. M-Day, drilling side, I am the Safety Officer for the installation. So first I'll go over the basics of Camp Edwards, and then I'll answer your question on the range.
Thank you.
So Camp Edwards is unique amongst the commands of Joint Base Cape Cod, where our primary mission is to support the training of the soldiers of the Commonwealth and the region. So our mission is to support training. We have several sections from plans and training, logistics, and public works that allow for soldiers to come to the base. We're the largest landowner on the base, where we have the 15,000 acres of maneuver area and around 2,000 acres on the installation and cantonment. But we have the smallest full-time footprint. So around 40 of us work on the base full-time to keep the lights on and run contracts to manage the installation and work the training area and do all the things to keep the lights on. But during the weekends, we can have up to 2,000 soldiers on the installation doing all their training tasks, which we'll get into in the next slide. We also have some tenant units on the installation. So as you probably heard, other than our brothers and sisters on the Coast Guard, we have the 3126 Aviation Battalion. They actually just got back from a year-long deployment in the Central Command area of responsibility, so Middle East area. We have a explosive ordnance disposal unit, an engineer company, and our regional training institute that's responsible for training our future officers and warrant officers for the Massachusetts Army National Guard, as well as an unmanned aerial aircraft school. We also host the Barnstable Dispatch Center, the USDA, and we have the Impact Area Groundwater Study Program, which does all the Army-related work for groundwater remediation. So moving on to what training we actually support, we have 5 live fire ranges that are currently active, a rifle range, a pistol range, and 2 25-meter zero ranges, and a M203 training grenade range. We also have maneuver space where soldiers practice on everything from land navigation to what we call situational training exercises, where units will practice going on patrols and reacting to a hostile contact, to LZs and landing zones and drop zones. So a couple years ago, you may have remembered seeing some aircraft having soldiers practice jumping out of a perfectly good airplane, doing static line airborne operations. So we worked with the Coast Guard on that. But we also had soldiers jump out of Black Hawks, and we have fast roping, which is soldiers jumping out of a perfectly good helicopter on ropes. So those are a few of the things that we do, but what all this does is prepares soldiers to meet their training requirements to go overseas. Currently, we have 1 unit on installation getting ready to go to the Europe Command area responsibility. So you'll see some increased traffic over the next week or two while their vehicles are getting transferred down to port to get transferred overseas. So my last slide is just to really highlight how you can learn more about the installation. As you may have heard in the past, we have a public tour program. That public tour program will continue into the out years. It has had a lot of positive response, and I invite all members of the select board, members of the public that haven't been on it. It's a great opportunity to actually walk the grounds and see what we're talking about when we talk about what soldiers need from training from some areas in the cantonment area, which is the living area of the base, to our training area. You actually get to go into the training area and see that. You get to go see the Impact Area Groundwater Study Program and what their program looks like. Bottom picture is me at a virtual training site with some members of the public, and the top is on a live fire range. There are other things you can do to learn more about the base. There are many public meetings that anyone in the public is able to go to, from the various meetings of the Environmental Management Commission, the Science Advisory Council, Community Advisory Council, and the Environmental Management Commission. Next meeting is next Thursday, the 17th of October at, I believe it's 9:30 at the Welcome Center. That is open to the public. Anyone that wants to come to that meeting is more than welcome to come. Access is through the main gate, Connery Gate, through the entry where the National Cemetery is. Also, if you want to read the details on what we do in the training area in particular, We have a report that we're required to fill out under Chapter 47 of the Acts of 2002, the State of the Reservation Report. There's a QR code on that slide that will take you right to that report. So I'm a little bit of a data nerd. If you want to read all the data from everything that we've fired since we started firing live rounds in 2007 to current, you can see the totals for every single range that we've had, all the natural resources projects, the progress on the impact area groundwater study program, all the training sites by use, by area, all that really statistical data you can read, and the team at Camp Edwards, along with the Environmental Management Commission Environmental Officer, Mr. Lempino, work really hard to take the technical jargon down a notch so that it's easily consumable by the public, because that's really the goal of this report, is for the public to have a report that they can see every year that demonstrates what we do on the base and how we're complying with Chapter 47 of the Acts of 2002. So if you want more information, I have Kathleen Kolva. She's our community relations specialist. Her email's at the bottom, and if you reach out to her, she's more than happy to point you to any of the resources, get you linked up with a tour, or any other questions you have. And if you could just repeat the question, I want to make sure I answer it
Of course.
specifically.
And thank you, Major McDonough, and thank you for your service. To reiterate, I fully support the military, and I fully support military preparedness. It's a critical need. I also fully support protecting our single source aquifer. And now that, so my question is, now that Governor Healy has blocked this going forward, is it your intention to apply for reauthorization or funding to bring this project back?
So the multipurpose machine gun range was a 2020 MILCON. So MILCON money expires after a certain amount of time. So the money expired at the end of September 30th. So that money is gone. Where the Army goes from here, we're currently looking at all of our training requirements and the needs of the soldiers, and we're reassessing that. So based on the training needs of our soldiers, we will put forward the projects that meet those needs and continue to seek funding. I can't say specifically whether that's an MPMG range in the future or some other type of range project or some other project, but in the future, we would, of course, present that through the EMC process, through our environmental review process and the like.
Okay. May I ask a follow-up, please? Thank you very much. I have a follow-up question.
Sure.
In thinking about that. So in the interest of transparency, if you decide to seek reauthorization and you decide to seek funding, will the neighboring towns be notified so that residents and town government has the opportunity to participate and give input in a meaningful way?
Sure, and you know, the meetings that we've had here are usually shorter in nature. The best way for towns to participate is through the EMC process. Each of the towns has a representative at the Civilian Advisory Council. Mr. Len Pinot sent me an email today saying that your representative, the fire chief, actually just turned in his resignation. So Mr. Pinot will, I'm sure, be reaching out to the select board for a new nominee for that position. But any member of the board is welcome to come to any of those meetings. In the past meetings from 2015 on, we did briefly mention that we were doing a MILCON, but that is not real participation. The real participation's in the EMC process, and that's why we did a lot of things that I used to talk about in the tour. We'll probably move on to some other topics in the future, but certainly we're open to dialogue and continuing discussion about what our projects are and the military needs. Absolutely.
Thank you. And so could we assume that if you intend to move a project forward, that the select boards in the neighboring towns could be notified so that we know to attend meetings and we know well in advance how to participate in a meaningful way?
Yes, I can bring that back, and we'll make sure to take a note to specifically reach out to the select boards prior to meetings of that type of nature.
Okay, and just so I'm clear, at this point, there's no plan to move forward right now?
There's no Milcon funding. The amount of money needed for that range would require that, so I'm not aware of any plans to move forward.
I appreciate you addressing my questions, and again, thank you for your service. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Chair, one quick question.
Yeah. John?
Did you have one?
Go ahead.
Major McDonough, just a quick question as far as, are they still continuing the discussion as far as housing on base?
So that is more on the air guard side of the base.
I know we discussed it, we discussed it probably a few meetings ago, probably a couple quarters ago with the Joint Base in the Commission and the council, but I haven't heard much about it in the last meeting, and General Fellows coming up.
Sorry, this isn't, so we went down, started our planning process with Cape Cod Commission and Mass Development. As many of you know, there was a significant change in leadership at Mass Development, and it put quite a stall on where we were going. We fully intend to go forward with that project. I'm discussing this with the commission on I guess a monthly basis right now, but we really haven't gone anywhere. We just literally, I think they just came up with the actual statement of work that they're putting forth for the entire, they originally did a statement of work for a smaller portion of the base, so they kind of took a small piece of the pie, but we've asked them to take it and go, basically want the cantonment area to be looked at, parcels that are going to be looked at that are either going to be transferred to another military service, those would go to other service, or would be considered excess, and then we can start looking at what we need to do. Obviously, housing is a priority, military housing, civilian housing, and then there are a myriad of other proposals that are kind of off to the side because we really have to find where we're going to put those other things before we start housing or placing things like, composting facilities and that nature. We're still interested in doing it, but it's all a kind of a puzzle mix right now. Who goes first, where we put this next. So the process is going forward. I apologize for the delay, but it had to do with the change of leadership at Mass Development.
Absolutely, and the reason for my question is because I'm in full support of new additional military housing, so that's
Sure.
full support of it.
I hope to, again, depending on what Mass Development or where they are, I hope to have an update at our next MC Cubed. I will prepare that. I will not physically be available because I'll be out on a medical situation, but I will make sure that if that is available, that it is presented to all of you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
David?
Yeah, some of the, I noticed some of the council's vacancies. How long have those positions been vacant?
Depending on the position, quite a while. The EMC Len Pinault has worked really hard to get engagement from the governor's office because all the positions are from the boards and commissions from the governor's office, and that can be a fairly lengthy process. So I'd have to say I've been here for about 10 years, and at some point there's been a vacancy in any one of those positions. But for your town in particular, the vacancy's fresh. Your representative just resigned as of today.
Because I do see the Science Advisory has like 3 vacancies.
Yes.
Community Council, 1, and then the EMC. And I do feel like, the land use management, public health, wildlife are all important positions.
Yes. Yeah, so the Science Advisory Council by Chapter 47, the rules are made up of specialists in various fields, so that one's a little more challenging to fill. The Science Advisory Council and the Environmental Management Commission are working diligently to fill those positions, but you need the right expert with the right level of expertise to join that group and be willing to be part of that group, and then go through the governor board's selection office. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Just to clarify Mr. Cotton's question about the land and the housing project. So as a reminder, I know in past years we've talked about it, we have a lot of land that is Commonwealth-owned, but leased to the Air Force,
Yep.
and then permitted to the Air National Guard or licensed to the Air National Guard. And in some instances permitted to the Coast Guard, right? So there's a lot of complexities there. And so we have been working on the Air National Guard side, working with Secretary of the Air Force's office to divest a lot of this property, because that's really the first step that needs to happen in order for the Commonwealth to take it back.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, everybody. We're good. Okay, next. Presentation of National Oceanic and Atmosphere Administration, NOAA, funding awards for Upper Quashnet River, Red Brook, and Upper Mashpee River, Andy Gottlieb, and April West, Association to Preserve Cape Cod.
Evening.
Who's that guy?
Huh?
Who's that guy?
Yeah. So, nice to see you all. I'm here in my professional capacity as the Executive Director of the Association to Preserve Cape Cod. I'm here with two of my colleagues, April Wopes, who is our manager of our ecological restoration program, and Mike Palmer, who, Mashpee resident, is actually, I think, our newest hire, and was brought on to help manage these projects. April's going to do the heavy lifting today, but we wanted to come and talk to you about the fact that we've been successful in working on a partnership grant, of which the town and tribe and a number of other players are important partners, from the NOAA Habitat Restoration Grants. We've been awarded roughly $15 million to do 5 ecological restoration projects across the Cape, and we are recommended for funding for a second project that's coming in around $2.5 million as part of the tribal community program, in partnership with both, again, with the tribe and the town. So we're sometime by next year, we'll anticipate having 6 restoration projects going, 3 of which are in the town of Mashpee.
Nice.
3.
3.
So fully half of the project work that we're doing through these 2 grants are located in Mashpee. You might call it a coincidence, you might not. April's going to walk you through these projects, but I will say that these are the largest grants that we as an organization have ever received. And the vast majority, painfully almost, of the money goes directly into the projects. We don't make a lot of money on these projects. Where the benefit to us as an organization is to act as a convener, to provide technical expertise, to actually draft the grants. We know it's hard for a number of the communities with whom we partner to have the expertise to be able to respond to these very complex federal funding opportunities. We're fortunate, and I've been fortunate in my entire tenure at APCC to have April, who is better than anybody I know at identifying, pursuing, obtaining, and then importantly, managing, completing projects on time, on budget, on schedule, with the results that we anticipate. So our primary role here is to act as an agency that helps towns and helps other local partners take advantage of opportunities to do things in environmental restoration that would otherwise be difficult for smaller organizations to manage on their own. So we're really pleased to have had the success that we've had in this funding round, and look forward to working with you and your staff over the next 3 to 4 years to bring these 3 substantial projects to fruition that will ultimately improve habitat, fisheries, and the water resources that you're working so hard to restore. So with that, I'm going to turn it to April.
Thanks, Andrew. So again, I'm our Restoration Program Manager and also the Mashpee's Regional Coordinator for Cape Cod. Again, APCC, we established what we call a Restoration Coordination Center, now the Ecosystem Restoration Program, back in 2015 when I came on. This was a shift from supporting more monitoring to trying to assist towns and community groups with planning, implementation, funding, filling these capacity gaps. So we've been doing that since 2015 on stormwater remediation, water quality improvement projects, and habitat restoration projects. I will say The last time I was in this room presenting about this was end of August, speaking with the, I think it's the Environmental Oversight Committee, to talk about putting in these proposals, one of which went in last November and the second in December. So it's really exciting to be at this point where we're able to say we were awarded this funding, and it includes these 3 important projects in the town of Mashpee. So the first of the larger 2 of the grants, this is a transformational habitat restoration grant from NOAA. It's a 4-year grant with $15 million. This includes 5 tidal and freshwater restoration projects with a lot of different partners, including the town of Mashpee and the Mashpee Wampanoag tribe, as well as Wacoit Bay National Estuarine Research Reserve. I will say all of the projects in here, we also looked at trying to consider restoration on a watershed scale. So we've also been partnering with the USDA Natural Resource Conservation Service and Cape Cod Conservation District, who are looking a lot of these same areas for fish passage and other resource improvements. So these are the 5 projects included here. Is that my mic? The most important being the 2 in Mashpee, the last one's there. So Red Brook on the border between Mashpee and Falmouth, and the Upper Quashnet River Bog Restoration Project. This is kind of a map showing where the 5 projects within this grant are, and then a little bit of a close-up on the 2 here in Mashpee. So again, both of these projects fall within the Wacoit Bay watershed. So we're really looking kind of from the headwaters, particularly at the Quashnet River from Johns Pond, all the way down to Wacoit Bay, and then just to the east, Red Brook. So those 2 projects are really kind of river bog restoration habitat projects, but you'll see kind of small, there are 2 small fish on that map, and that's where NRCS funding is looking at improvements to the fish passage structures and fish passage at those locations. So overall, we're looking at an estimated 220 acres of wetland habitat restored across all of these projects, particularly in looking at Red Brook, 1.4 miles of river to be restored from the headwaters down to Hamlin Pond, and development of plans and permitting for 23 acres of former bog restoration. At the Upper Quashnet River, this is looking at the stretch of 3,900 feet of river, kind of just immediately downstream of Johns Pond and that fish passage structure, and restoration of the 44 acres of former cranberry bog there. The second grant that we submitted for and are recommended for funding for is this NOAA Underserved Community and Tribal Habitat Restoration Grant. And this is one where we've, again, partnered with the town of Mashpee, the Mashpee Wampanoag tribe, and Webner. In this case, we'll be working particularly close with the tribe, as this is the focus of some of this habitat restoration. And this is focused just on the Mashpee River. So again, there's this partnership of this NRCS federal funding, which can fund the fish passage components, and using some of this NOAA funding to do a more comprehensive watershed scale restoration. Again, it's a 4-year project. We're currently working right now on resubmitting some revised budgets and proposal narratives so we can try and get in place by end of this year and start in January with this funding agreement in place. So these are the areas kind of covered by that. So starting all the way from the pond outlet at the Mashpee Wakeby Pond, the structures and passage around Route 130, going south between Route 130 to Great Neck Pond, looking at some fish passage structures, old bog structures really at Collins Lane, and then the cranberry bog and wetland habitat in and around Washburn Pond. So some of those specifically fish passage structures NRCS funding can support. The NOAA funding is supporting a lot of the rest, including further assessment of areas south of Great Neck Pond, including Asher's Path, as well as the Route 28 culvert and some passage in the Mashpee woodlands, which isn't shown on this map. But if you look at the picture in the top right, that's the Route 28 culvert. It has been assessed by some of the town engineer consultants, and we had a conversation this past month with DOT, so it's on their radar, and they're applying for funding to try and secure funding for eventual replacement of that. But with our funding, we can at least do the next stage of assessment, H&H study, and a geotechnical study looking at that culvert to start moving that forward towards hopefully replacement before any failure of that structure that would impede any fish passage further upstream. So again, our role, we applied for, developed, and are working on all the revisions requested from NOAA for these grant applications. as the recipients will do all the administration, reimbursements, which includes subawards with partners, and the reporting to NOAA. On different projects, we provide different levels of project management and support as needed to fill capacity gaps and support moving these projects forward. For some of these projects, we will directly hold the funds and hire and manage consultants. So for Red Brook, there's kind of two components of this. There's the culvert replacement work, which is underway, that Catherine's been leading and pushing forward, and that's getting close to permitting. But there's also a broader look to develop a vision of how to restore the rest of that system. So north and south of the culvert, what do we as a community, both tribe and other community members, have as a vision for how that would look, how we might restore those former cranberry bogs to more natural wetlands and resource for the community. We'll also support monitoring, and an important piece of this in both these grants is training and engagement. So Webner is leading a lot of the community engagement, but also built into the Mashpee Wampanoag tribe budget is time for their towns, their natural resource staff, additional new staff to be hired, and for community liaisons from the tribe, and under Webner's budget, underserved community liaisons from the community. So that for each of these three projects, in Red Brook and Mashpee River in particular, which are at earlier design phases, to really make sure that we're getting input as to what this vision for these systems are, and building a plan and design around that input. So these are all the projects and the key points of contact. There's a lot more members of project teams, but Catherine is the main point of contact for the Red Brook project for the town of Mashpee, and Drew for the Upper Quashnet River. As I want to reiterate, the community engagement is a really important piece. Often with restoration and other projects, there's always what I would consider like public outreach meetings that may be discuss plans, try and get support, sometimes seek permission. But with this, again, we really want it to be an engagement process. So understanding the values of the community, having this series of meetings and visioning to inform project scope and design and what we're looking at, providing different options and alternative formats and structures for those meetings, and again, the funding to support the time of the community liaisons, both from the broader community as well as from the Mashpee Wampanoag tribe. So Tana Marie Surgeon Rogers at Webner is going to be the lead from their team, helping to plan and coordinate that with us, and we'll be working closely with Jason Stiding as well as Dale from the tribe. Money is what we care about the most, so here's the summary of kind of those sub-awards. And apologies if you didn't get it in advance. We do have two kind of like two-pager front-back short summaries of each of these projects that if you didn't receive yet, will be coming through from Dan Kent or the town manager's office. For Red Brook, this is what the sub-awards look like. And as Andrew indicated, there is some other funding, incremental. I think it's about $800,000 total in the first NOAA grant and $300,000 in the second NOAA grant for APCC's expense to support this work. But for the kind of functional pieces of the project, the subaward of $970,000 for the Mashpee town funded scope for the Red Brook culvert design, permitting, and largely construction. A combined $500,000 for the towns of Mashpee and Falmouth to support land acquisition in and around Red Brook to complete this project. And for APCC, that piece that I mentioned where we will manage directly consultants on some of the river and bog feasibility study design and permitting. This is below is the combined budget under the first grant for the Red Brook and Quashnet River projects for the Mashpee Wampanoag tribe. So this is funding for natural resource staff, a new technical position, community liaisons, and other expenses related to their involvement and engagement with the project. A small chunk of funding for Webner to support the community engagement, as well as funding placed in there for temporary and permanent educational signage. And another piece of all of these projects is training and capacity building, which we'll be working with Webner to support as well. So across all the project partners and teams and within the Wampanoag tribe for their new technical positions, additional training, capacity building workshops over the course of the first 1 to 2 years of the projects. So that's what this budget looks like. The first column being the request for the river and bog work, which again, a lot of this feasibility design permitting will go through APCC. The second column being the Red Brook culvert requested funds. This is the subaward to the town. And then again, we were also able to support and be successful with this grant because the town has already been working on this project with a lot of partners. So here's the leverage funds that already exist that Catherine and others were able to secure to move the early phases of planning for the culvert forward. The upper Quashnet, the subaward to the town of Mashpee, is going to be $4.7 million, largely for the construction, which is in the later stages of this project, year 3 to 4. Again, same combined funding for the tribe, an additional $35,000 for Webner to support the community engagement for this project, signage and training capacity building. So again, most of the subaward to the town from the NOAA grant is going for construction because, largely speaking, most of the other early phase design and permitting and construction oversight are covered with existing funds that the town has in place. So right now this project is right around the 25, moving towards 50% design, so we'll be assisting with moving that forward. And again, the Mashpee River proposal, this is still just recommended, so it's not officially awarded, but we do anticipate, if nothing goes wrong, which we don't think will, because it didn't with the first grant, that by the end of this year, we will have this award in place. So this includes a larger chunk of funding, particularly for the Mashpee Wampanoag tribe. So in this case, it's to support a second technical position, new hire, as well as partly fund an administrative role for the tribe and the department. Again, community liaisons, but also to build up and build into this some of the design, permitting, contracted scope, which will support the tribe and bidding out and hiring and help manage and build up kind of the capacity to manage those types of roles moving forward. The subaward for the town of Mashpee is $1.6 million, again, largely for construction. And there's this $300,000 for APCC to support management, monitoring, some of the signage pieces, as well as, again, funding through Webner for community engagement and capacity building. So again, with this, there's a good chunk of funding in here to support tribal capacity building and staffing, and we'll be working really closely with Jason, Dale, and any, the new staff that are proposed under these grants to build that out. The larger chunks of funding, kind of tasks 3 through 5, are the meat of the actual restoration project. And as you can see in the leverage line, there is proposed, though not all of it's fully obligated, funding of leverage. So the biggest chunk, that $2 million from NRCS, is kind of the proposed or estimated cost for some of those structural fish passage components. So that has not yet been requested them. It's not obligated funds, but that is through a funding source that they're continuing to make annual requests for. So that's kind of the anticipated breakdown of the budget, with the NOAA grant filling some of the gaps, particularly for some of the aspects of construction that NRCS can't fund. So this is kind of where we are. We had a kind of general grant administrative meeting with all the key project contacts last week. We are reviewing all the existing procurement documents from each of these projects. All of these projects have already been ongoing. They have consultants in place. But as part of our due diligence as managing these federal funds, where we have to review that, make sure we have all the proper documentation in line, and we're making these presentations to the select board. So right now we're setting up kind of our NOAA funding kickoff meetings. It's kind of a misnomer of kickoff because these projects are all ongoing. But we'll be meeting with the project teams to go through, again, all of the details that we pulled together in these proposals for roles, scope, timeline, and then really getting underway with these. So we do not yet have in place our subaward agreements, but we do have all of the contracts kind of drafted up. So you will be seeing soon coming through from these projects, the town will see kind of our subaward agreement or agreements for these 3 projects that we're moving forward with.
Wow. Good.
I got a quick question for you. So, as far as you mentioned about bringing on new staff members with expertise and the whole thing, and if I remember correct, if I heard this correctly, I think it's like 327,000.
Yeah. So it's not fully broken out here, but Jason and I developed and put into both these proposals an estimated cost. Initially for a 3-year grant was what we originally proposed for both of these, and they've been shifted to 4 years. So both of these grants for the Wampanoag tribe include a full-time 4-year technical position. So there's built into the combination of these 2 new staff members.
So it's renewed, that's what I'm saying. I mean, what I was questioning, you bring someone in, or you mentioned 2 or 3 people, $327,000, is that, so that's renewable?
So that's just for this 4-year period for these grants. Is that what you're,
So it's $327,000 for,
over the 4 years?
Over the 4 years.
I don't know how you're gonna get 1 or 2 people to work for 4 years with $327,000. I just, because you mentioned a staff and then assistant, just question.
Yeah, I will say the third administrative position is one that, as I understand it, is already approved, and they were just looking for a portion of the additional funding, so it is not a fully funded through this, but to support some additional because of that same issue. My understanding is Jason was looking to hire this administrative position, and for the level that they want for that position needed higher salary, so we're able to support that with this grant. I think there is flexibility between the 2 grants, and working with NOAA that if we find a higher salary for one position versus 2 is preferable, that we could do that. But these are intended to be kind of lower level entry technician type positions.
Okay.
David?
I was wondering, nice work on this. It looks like, you've been awarded a portion of the money and expect an award on the other portion, so excellent work. I know they are very complicated, the proposal and grant writing process. So kudos on the work you've already done. I was wondering, leveraging the funds. I think there's opportunities maybe possibly that to get even more bang for your buck, and I was wondering if you've connected with Michaela Lenardi Paredes over with the state's Massachusetts Federal Funds and Infrastructure Office, FFIO. She did a presentation to another group that I work with where they're trying to connect, help municipalities, regional authorities, tribes, all parties to access more infrastructure funds and things and set-asides and things like that. So
David, in a quiet moment, not in public, April would probably tell you that I'm constantly pushing her to look for additional funding sources, build on things. So we are always looking. And I think what you'll see, if I get my numbers right, between the 2 grants, we're roughly $18 million, and the existing leverage is in excess of $5 million. So, we're getting $23 million worth of project work done by supplementing it with 15 million or 18 million in federal money. So we've got other sources that we're constantly looking at, and through April and Mike's work, have our ears to the ground about other opportunities where we can layer in additional ones. I talked to Quentin Palfrey at the governor's federal financial liaison frequently about a variety of things. So we're always looking.
Okay. The other one was, I don't know if you're familiar with the URI is the regional lead for the North Atlantic Coastal Cooperative Ecosystems Unit. And so that CESU program is helpful because it allows you, if you're a partner, to participate and have access to technical expertise and perform cooperative, collaborative projects utilizing resources from all the partners. And URI is the lead. There's some really impressive members of that partnership. And so becoming a partner isn't the most complicated process. It would, I think, open the door for collaborative projects with the various parties that are members, and it might be an additional way to leverage funding towards some of the technical training.
You've mentioned that to me before. We'll take a look at that. I think for this year, we're going to focus a lot on absorbing this grant. Because taking this on has required revisions to every system that we have, from timekeeping to project management to accounts payable, contracting processes, because the federal requirements are stringent. And so part of the reason April's been so successful in being able to obtain these grants in the past is we're able to deliver, as I said, on time and on budget. We want to make sure we're not so focused on growing that we lose sight of implementing what we've got now. So we're going to spend a lot of this year figuring out implementing these with you and your team. And then as we begin to see potential gaps and or potential opportunities later, midpoint 2025, we're going to start really pushing harder to find additional resources to plug gaps or take the next step of these projects. So we're always running 2, 3, 4 years ahead because it takes time. It takes time to get partners ready to go. And so we're always trying to feed stuff in. So I think we're going to pursue those things harder midpoint of next year forward.
Yeah,
And I think
you're
the
in a,
URI funding, in particular, as you look at this budget for Mashpee River, there's a good chunk looking at increased monitoring and like a management response plan, especially as water is outlet out of the pond, changing water temperatures or DO levels. So I think that could be a really good opportunity for that partnership. And the other thing I just want to highlight for the Red Brook project, which I did say, is that we don't yet have in the SNOW grant the funding for implementation of the river and bog piece. The focus was being getting the implementation funding for the culvert. So we will be looking as we move forward with this, particularly for that funding piece, so that we're not just finishing with this NOAA grant saying, okay, go find, your 800,000, 1.5 million, 2 million for that construction piece, that implementation part.
I think you're positioning yourself to be in a really great place with all the collaborative projects. Funders love that stuff, and, you guys are more than capable.
The other thing that I know the town manager would be concerned with is, we're always in a period of great uncertainty. And so one of the ways that this funding works is all the money gets moved off federal government's books into a system that allows us to draw down on it. So now that we have the contracts executed for the 15 million, it's not subject to clawback. So you can be comfortable as project partners with us that the money that's represented on that sheet is going to be there through the life of the project period. And we're working really hard with the tribal grant, the Mashpee River grant, to get that executed on or before the 1st of January for obvious reasons, so that money then transfers prior to change in administration, because there's going to be a new administration one way or the other. So the priorities always change. So we're working really hard to make sure that the money's in the dedicated account for the Mashpee River project before the administration changes, so that we'll be able to proceed as we've presented to you with comfort and security for you and your commitments over that 4-year period.
I guess I'll just add to, having worked since 2015 on trying to support and get funding for these projects, there's a reason this first grant was called transformational, because it's very challenging. You're usually piecing together year over year multiple applications. So to get all of this with the leveraged funds and the NOAA funds in one large chunk, largely covering all those expenses for 4 years, and to be able to support the town and the tribe in this is really exciting for us.
Kayla?
Just a huge shout out to APCC for supporting towns throughout the Cape, making sure these environmental issues are addressed. And you're right, putting together these kinds of funding streams that none of us would be able to put together alone. So just a huge shout out. I'm so excited. It's so good to feel good about this. Thank you for your work.
So the one take home I want you to feel good about, we're going to make some real progress on some resource projects that you've been working on for a long time. If they take anything away, between Mike and April, you're in really good hands.
That's good.
So they will work with you as they have to get this project up and to deliver it in a way that works really well for the town. So any issues, concerns you might have, April's your go-to. You don't even have to deal with me. Thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you for coming in.
Ancillary benefit.
You'll be out fishing anyway, won't you?
Have a good night. Okay, approval of the following special event and temporary sign permit application. The annual Chamber of Commerce Christmas Parade, December 14th, 2024, 6 to 8. Rain date is December 15th. Mashpee Chamber of Commerce. Corey, you want to come up? We have the application in front of us. The special event is the Season of Illumination Christmas Parade on Green Staple Mashpee Commons map is attached, so nothing's changed for the parade route.
No, the route is the same as last year.
Okay. And anything else you need to?
I just wanted to say that we have increased the number of police and will have like Job's Fishing closed off. So we had some issues last year with not enough police and cars coming through at the wrong time and stuff like that. So we've worked to improve that for the safety of everybody.
And they want the sign posted prior to Thanksgiving. It's a 1 by 32 square foot ground sign, which they normally have. So, do you have any questions, or do I have a motion?
Motion to approve the special event Season of Illumination Christmas Parade, Mashpee Green, Steeple Street, Mashpee Commons, as
And-
presented, an annual temporary sign permit for the Season of Illumination Christmas Parade sign posted prior to Thanksgiving, as
Second.
presented.
Second and a second.
Michaela?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Yes.
And I'm a yes. And thank you for coming in.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.
One question I have is, I'm a little confused, the grass area between 28 and 151, where would that, doesn't that slope down right there? Where the Commons is, 28 and 151?
No, it would be the sign that when you come out of Great Neck, it's right there before you go into 151. They usually put the sign there
Okay, yeah, all right.
before you go into 151 from the Rotary.
Yeah, I'm confused.
So
I
where,
can't
I mean,
visualize
I
it.
guess where it's always been.
It's always been there, yeah. They put it
um,
there every year.
Okay.
So it would be, I guess, on the Great Neck North, 151
One.
That's-
intersection.
Side of
That's
the
what
road.
I was kind of thinking of, but the way it's worded is 28 and 151,
Oh,
Okay.
which puts it on the Mashpee Commons side of the Rotary and it's sloped, right?
Right, or maybe, yeah, I'm not sure.
It could have been worded a little different.
It's on
Yep.
the other side, correct? It is on the other side.
yeah.
Gotcha.
Okay,
Okay, yeah, I think you're all set.
thank you.
Thank you. Communication and correspondence, we're all set. Interview, discussion, and possible appointment of the following. Sewer Commission, term expires June 30th. Well, and Nair, member at large. Come on up. How are you? Thank you for waiting.
Sure, no problem.
Do you have his application in front of you? Want to tell us a little bit about you?
Sure.
Sure.
Mohan Nair. I moved to Mashpee about 3 years ago. I am an engineer by education, started working for Schneider Electric more than 3 decades ago, worked in different countries, running an operation. I'm operations director for our cybersecurity division. I work out of home, but if I had to, I go to the Foxborough office. I have 2 children, both are in New York City. We love the Mashpee area ever since we moved in, so looking to contribute back to this community in some capacity.
And
So
we appreciate that so much.
that's the main driver for getting involved in the sewer committee.
I have no
I
questions.
know, excellent rating. Do I have a motion, or do you have any questions for?
No, I just wanted to say clearly the experience that you bring will be really important to the work on the sewer commission. I also wanted to thank the chair of the sewer commission for following the policy, putting all of this together for us. Everything is really clear. The references are, or the evaluations are outstanding. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
Do I have a motion?
Motion to recommend appointment of Moen Nair
To the sewer.
to the Sewer Commission.
Second. Michaela? Yes. David?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. And thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Mashpee Cultural. Term expires June 30th, 2025. Allison Machado, and she is not able to be here, but they followed the program. You have all of her evaluation forms, and I think we could go forward with her, with the recommendation. No, we don't need to. Is everybody okay with that?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay.
Yep.
Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve Allison Machado, member-at-large from Mashpee Cultural Council.
Second.
And Lee, thank you for following the procedure. Michaela?
Yes, very clear, thank you. Yes.
David?
Yes.
Yes.
And I'm a yes. So you
Just-
can,
Just for the record, I believe it's Machado.
Machado?
Yeah.
It is.
Machado.
I've also seen Mikado.
She's a neighbor.
Like that.
Oh, good.
That's
good.
Machado.
Machado.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Discussion and acceptance of the following resignation. Affordable housing, term expires June 30th. Kayla Shell, member at large.
Motion to approve the resignation of Kayla Shell, member-at-large, term expiring 6/30/2025, with letter of appreciation.
Yes, please.
Second.
Michaela?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
And I'm a yes.
Question, where's that put us with the affordable housing? Like, how, what do we have?
I know, we're going to talk about that.
We're actually in trouble there.
Yes.
Yes.
There should be a list that was updated for this meeting for the board at the end
At the end.
regarding the positions that are vacant.
We're going to need to put out a plea for people to get involved in this.
We have.
I know, I don't know what else to
We
do.
can't even get sufficient applicants for vacancies, never mind volunteers for these positions.
What do you think we need to change? I mean,
I don't know what to tell you, there's just a lack of interest.
interest.
I think for some people, it's a lack of time. I think a lot of
Yeah.
people are working two jobs as well right now.
Right, I think you're right.
Take comments from the audience?
We have public comment coming up.
I know, but it's about what you're talking about.
I guess so.
I was just going to say.
Come on
Oh,
up.
Oh, sorry.
you get the mic.
What?
You get the mic.
I get the mic. I just wanted to say, because I've been talking about this with a whole bunch of different people, and a couple of ideas that had come up would be to do kind of an open house with all the committees that are looking for vacancies, have a table maybe at.
We've done that at,
And then.
I know, we've come up with all kinds of.
Yeah, I'm sure you have, but I didn't know about that one. Or even.
And we did it at a job fair.
You did it at a job fair. Or doing something in the newspaper
We've done
where
that.
the
We've done
committees that have the vacancies put in a blurb about what they do and the kind of activities that they are looking for people to do.
It's been on the website,
Yeah.
it's
But-
been in the
but
We've
newspaper.
we've done it.
But
We've done
people
it.
don't read the website. And I think
Well,
word
we-
of mouth with a human being, that's how I got involved, thanks to Frank Lord.
So maybe someone's
Or you
willing
can
to,
curse him, whatever you'd like to do.
And the chamber puts it out for us also.
if there's maybe an opportunity where somebody in the committee wants to sit out in front of a town meeting, as people come in, people that attend town meeting it seems like they're involved,
Right.
so
Maybe
they're
we
there,
can announce,
they're walking by, you're not on the committee.
maybe we can announce it at the town meeting.
If you can get somebody that's stand behind a table that's not afraid to, hey, you're involved but I don't see you involved in a committee, kind of drag them in.
You want me to drag them?
Whatever it takes.
Okay, we have,
I think town, excuse me.
No?
I think setting something up outside of town meeting
Town
is a
meeting would be a
really,
good
really
idea.
good idea
The
if we
only
could
thing
put the
it's
descriptions
not gonna
together.
draw so much this year.
And not as much, but it would be one more thing that we could act on right now.
Right.
And then we could talk about other ways to increase participation. I don't have an answer, but I do think that's
Yeah.
a good idea.
And it's soon, so.
And a lot of times people, they have kids now, so it's hard to, in school and whatever. Okay, public comment. Colton Atkinson? Hi.
Good evening. Colton Atkinson, 112 Algonquin Avenue, and member of the Cape Cod Commission's Vision Zero Advisory Committee. So I'm here to ask for 4 things pertaining to roadway safety: that you adopt a Vision Zero goal for the town, direct town staff to act towards that goal, implement the safety recommendations from the Old Barnstable traffic study, and make a statement of support for the Rotary Improvement Project to the Cape Cod Commission. So to start, Vision Zero is the nationwide movement to improve our roadway safety, to eliminate roadway deaths and serious injuries. Primarily, the Cape intends to focus on safer roads, safer people, and safer speeds, and they have a plan to have a proposal adopted this spring. If this is a goal you'd be interested in, I would be happy to come forward at a future meeting to explain the Vision Zero movement a little more in depth and how we plan to accomplish this here on Cape Cod. Secondly, I encourage you to also direct the planning department and committee to create a plan for the implementation of the town's Safe Streets for All proposal with measurable timelines, to identify funding sources external to town funds, and to apply for those funds accordingly. To also direct the Department of Public Works to request a budget proposal that will allow them to make the necessary infrastructure improvements over that determined timeline. And finally, to direct the police department to strictly enforce traffic violations that endanger our community, particularly those that put vulnerable roadway users at risk. For example, not yielding at a crosswalk, passing too close, or running stop signs or stoplights. Those are all life-threatening violations that merit the minimal citation that come with them, or at the very least, a written warning every time it's brought to the attention of the police. Next, I ask that you specifically direct town staff to implement the safety improvements from the traffic study that we spent tens of thousands of dollars to conduct and spent an hour reviewing back in June. We do not need to make a decision on the affordable housing project at 209 Old Barnstable before we make the decision to proceed with the necessary safety improvements to protect the residents who already live on that street and came to tell you how dangerous of a road it is. Finally, those who do not regularly follow transportation infrastructure projects likely don't know, but Phase 2 of the Route 151 project received its bids, and one came in by Lawrence Lynch at about $10 million below the estimate. Coincidentally, the rotary retrofit is estimated to cost about that amount. So this is a vital safety improvement that kind of ties together the center of our town, and we might be able to get it built sooner with your voice of support. So town support is a metric that the Cape Cod Commission uses to determine which projects to support and what order to fund them in. And the highest score can be achieved with a letter of support by the highest elected officials, which is you. There was a meeting last year where Kathleen Laurent kind of advocated for the project to be selected sooner, but it wasn't selected. I think that you guys could help. So in summary, 4 things: adopt a Vision Zero goal for the town, direct town staff to act towards that goal, implement the safety improvements along Old Barnstable, and write a letter of support for the rotary retrofit. Thanks for the time.
Thank you. Eva Costello?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Well, I don't have charts and I don't have budgets, so you can sit back and relax for a minute. What I'm here for is to tell you that
Microphone.
What I'm here for is to tell you that I wanted to let you know what we were doing for Indigenous Peoples Day over with the Historical Commission, because on that day, every year, we try to do a special open house and have a theme for that open house. This year, we have a little challenge for you all, as well as the community. And I'm hoping that we can put, excuse me, a copy of an old-fashioned poster up in the town hall so that people can come and maybe answer the question of, do you know where the original post office for Mashpee was located? So our focus this year is on informing to the community historic part about the post offices in Mashpee and how they've grown, and who the postmasters were, and who the mail carriers are, and very interesting history. So I hope you can all come. It's on Indigenous Peoples' Day, open house from 11 to 2, and I'm hoping someone can put this up within the town hall. Thank you.
Lynn Barbie.
Good evening. Hi.
Hello.
Lynn Barbie, Surf Drive, and I'm here with a couple of hats. My first hat is I'm here as the chair of the Mashpee Human Services Committee. And I wanted to let everyone know, Wayne already knows, that we have made our decision and we have dispersed opioid abatement funding to the tune of $161,500. And it's gone to ROAR, which is Ride for Opioid Addiction Recovery, Boys and Girls Club, Behavioral Health Innovators, One Shared Spirit, the Coalition for Children, Big Brother Big Sister, Duffy Health Center, AIDS Support Group, and Parents Supporting Parents. And Corinne, who just left, was part of our panel who's made that decision. And it's been, and the committee has, the panel gets applications, makes recommendations, and we as the committee vote on this, and we have now approved that. And I think it's, it's really a wonderful thing that we have Gail Wilson as our Human Services Director, because she really manages this very, very well. So that's my one hat. My other hat is I just wanted to let people know that there's a public forum on property tax exemption and how it affects year-round residents. It'll be Thursday, October 10th at 6:30 p.m. at the Mashpee Public Library, and everyone is invited. And the final thing I just wanted to say is I hear that committees are on the agenda. And I think it's a really wonderful thing that we start raising this issue. As you all know, I go around and recruiting people all the time. So, and I think that one of the things that I get asked when I say, oh, you should serve on a committee is, well, what do they do? And I can do the human services, I can talk about that a lot, and I can talk about community preservation. But one of the things I think that would be very helpful is we go back to the situation where all of the agendas of the committees were posted online. Because if we want to recruit people to be on a committee, they should know, A, what it's doing and when their meeting is and what the agenda is that might be of interest to them. And currently, many of the committees are not being posted online, they're posted on the bulletin board. But people who are just sort of figuring out if they want to be involved are not going to drive all the way up to town hall to look at the bulletin board to see if maybe they might want to go to a meeting when they can easily click on the website. And the website is a really valuable communications device, and we have a recruitment process that's on the website as well. So all of these factors can be better utilized for actually recruiting people and engaging people in it. And I hope that we will continue to do more of that, and I will do whatever I can to help. Thank you.
Thank you. Old business, additional liaison reports. John? David? Michaela?
It's an announcement rather than a liaison report,
Okay.
but it's a public announcement. I don't know if everybody saw it. The Community Land Trust and Housing Land Bank public meeting is going to be held in Orleans, on October 16th at 5:30. It was one of the chief recommendations of the regional housing strategy, and I know they presented at One Cape. If people want to be involved, that's when it's being held.
Good.
Thank you.
Okay, water quality updates? You have any? Town manager updates? Rodney Collins?
Yes, Madam Chair. A couple things. We've been talking about vacancies on committees and commissions and boards. We've got some vacancies relative to plowing, and the private contractors are not there like they used to be. And I've spoken with the DPW director, and there is a concern relative to this winter if we did have any major snowstorms. There could be a significant delay in getting to some of the roads that are not major arteries, and particularly in the New Seabury area,
We had this last year, too.
we are going to have a real problem. So we've tried to recruit, but the interest just is not there. I don't know if it's insurance. I don't know if it's the fact that for the last couple of winters, we haven't had much snow accumulation. So whatever it is, it's impacting us, and it's not just the town of Mashpee. There are a lot of other towns in the same situation. I'm just letting the board know that there will be some delays in getting to some of these streets because we just don't have the staff and we don't have the private contractors.
I had someone approach me on the vacancy list about if they used to live in Mashpee, their children live in Mashpee, but they've had to live in the next town, or a business person that has a business in Mashpee. Can they be, maybe we can recruit them to be on some of these boards? Like there's a mother whose children have grown and they live in Mashpee, and she's vested in Mashpee, but she's had to move out of town for reasons.
You're talking about a commission or a committee?
Commission or.
It's a policy decision that
policy.
you folks would have to make.
Okay. Well,
I'm
it's a
talking
thought.
about some essential services that we're getting concerned about.
Too.
Yeah, I've heard the same thing from other towns,
Yeah.
and every contractor or someone that has a vehicle, what I've heard from them is there's not enough snow
Snow to plow.
to deal with any of that, and it's just not worth the hassle. So they've done away with the plowing, and they just, but I think every town, I don't know if any towns,
They're all in the same
I
position.
mean, we can do that, like we did with we increased the like a bonus, whatever. But we can keep on
Sign-on
playing the
bonus.
game. It's just, I think that they're dropping off.
Yeah, I just wanted to let you know, in case we did have a major snowstorm, it's not going to be business as usual. There's going to be some
Yep.
delays. Second thing I wanted to mention is Chief Phelan from the Fire Department is retiring in December after many years of service.
Yeah.
And the other thing I wanted to mention is we had a meeting with Mr. DeSorga last week?
Yeah.
Last week.
Yeah, Thursday.
Last week, and we've got a plan to put a wreath with a spotlight on the one-room schoolhouse, and we're also going to get some lights for the lamps that will go from the gazebo down to the one-room schoolhouse. And I think he's planning on having Santa at the one-room schoolhouse. And we actually had, Ava took off, yeah, she left. But we had a good meeting, and it sounded like we would preserve the character of the lot, but at the same time, make it spirited for the holiday season. So that's going to be brought forward, and Mary Bradbury's enterprise account is going to be funding the items.
That's good. Very good.
That's great.
Anything else?
I have nothing else this time.
Okay, then I take a motion to
Motion to
adjourn.
adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Michaela?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Thank you, everybody.
And if you don't want to deal with the book,
Yeah, just
just
leave the book and I'll take it upstairs.
leave it and
Kudos to Stephanie
We
for
would
doing
like to
this.
recycle them.
Yeah,
Um,
it's a great idea.
I think,
This is Stephanie's
Yeah.
brainstorm.
Yeah.
and kudos, because I loved it, especially with recycling it. Perfect.
Exactly.
I'm spoiled with the Cape Cod Commission. I like digital tablets. Save the trees.
You can have those,
No,
sir.
I know.
You know, I'm thinking about trying
We did that, and
to be on some of
Majority
these
of your
committees.
fellow board members.
wasn't me.
nixed
People
it.
have
Everybody
businesses
else was like, no way.
that live